Krsna. Hope everyone's doing good. Been a while since I made a video. I felt like making one on the Lord's external energy, or as people are becoming familiar with the term Maya or illusion, God's illusory energy. God has multi energies, multifarious functions and energies. So when you learn about the different details and intricacies of God and the characteristics and His nature and all the different energies that God displays and whatnot, it's easier to understand what's going on in this world. So, the illusory energy, which would be the material world, which is even consists of the demigod realm, the heavenly planes, is still within the brinks of the material realm. So when I speak of the material realm, it's a lot more than what we know of as material. So there are many levels of consciousness, there are many levels of beings and existence. So it's important to know all the intricacies. That way we know where we want to go and how to get to where we want to go. And with Krishna consciousness, it's all about developing that clarity, like finally finding your target of what you want to do beyond this life. That's why it's so hard to pick what you want to do in this life, because we don't know what we want to do or where we want to go after we die. And we know that it's not going to be that long until that happens. So it's important to learn about, to self-realize about like what happens to the soul or to your energy whenever your body is not able to function anymore. And that's when you start getting into like how this world's created and whatnot, and how your mind kind of co-creates your reality and whatnot. So God has three main departments of energy, to make it simple to understand. He has internal energy, external energy, and marginal, which is mixed. We're the marginal while we're in human bodies, because we're spiritual beings operating a physical humanoid body. So whoa. When you realize that this material world has a spiritual essence or core to it, then it basically reveals the fact that there's a curtain of energy that's blinding us from reality as it is, which is raw spiritual energy. And that's what we are. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred. So when the body dies, the soul carries on. The soul is never harmed by anything, you know. So it can only be materially contaminated or yourself blinded from it, you know, because of that. But the soul is never damaged, it never perishes, it just transfers to another place. So when you realize that, then it's like, okay, well, how do I go get a little bit of control over where I want to go next and whatnot? because your mind kind of catapults you into your next reality. So, it, with Krishna consciousness, it explains that with the quality of your thinking, you can potentially catapult yourself into a way better place. One, while you're in this physical body. Two, after you leave this body. Problem is, no one has like a target, so we don't know where we're going. We're all running around like pissed on ants, you know. So, once you find a target, like you got it centered, then you know what you're doing in this body, in this life's term. So, whenever you chant mantras and you raise your frequencies, the main mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, it gives you a direct contact with God and helps you to open up to a different platform of being, a different mode, so to say. Within that platform, you're able to understand different things that you're not able to understand whenever you're engulfed in ignorance or entangled in it. So, the higher your frequency, which as your frequency opens, as your frequency raises, your heart opens, and when that happens, your consciousness raises. And that's what happens through the mantras. And the Hare Krishna mantra is the most bona fide and effective and simplified method for having direct contact with God and reestablishing a personal relationship with God. And it raises your frequency so high, potentially, that it, like I said, as a byproduct, you become more conscious. So it helps you to understand things that you have never been able to understand. So we're not taught these things growing up. That's why it's so difficult, because we're programmed. We're not taught. So no one knows how to learn. No one knows how to teach. We have to reprogram ourselves and wash ourselves clean from basically everything we're used to, and in order to operate as an actual human being and not a robotic battery zombie. So, with the higher vibration through chanting, you naturally develop a higher consciousness, which means you start understanding God more and whatnot, and you're able to read more potent literature like the Bhagavad Gita and have a better grasp of it, instead of taking it and saying, oh, this is what I think God said, and manufacturing your own system from there. That's not proper. It's not how it works. God doesn't really make mistakes, so there's no room for... He's very blunt about the system he dropped down, so he didn't really give mankind any wiggle room to do their own thing with it. You know, it's the whole point is to surrender to God, so just to listen to God. That's why this book is called As It Is, because we leave God's word as it is, you know. And the only people that can understand it are people that are on a high enough frequency. You know, you have to have that relationship with God develop. You know, it has to develop. You have to get past that impersonal stage. God has different features, so yeah, people are right when they think of God as impersonal, but he has many features, many different potencies. So he's not just impersonal; he's infinite variety and has infinite personal characteristics. So the way he reciprocates with his devotees, it's beyond something that's not a person. Everything that all his characteristics describe a person, not just his image. So um, these are very trippy things to analyze that are also very essential. Um, to clear the mind, we say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And that calls on God to clarify your mind and put a protective bubble around whatever it is that you're doing. And so God's illusory energy, to get into that, that's mainly what I wanted to discuss, because once we learn about the external energy, we can learn how to break free from it. Because God's external energy, or the Maya, or Durga, Maya Devi, this is what the illusory energy looks personified or fully potent. Keep in mind, the opulence of God is unlike the limited aspects of a human being. God can expand himself in so many different ways and still be fully potent in any place and every place. So what can't God do? To say that he doesn't take form is to be poorly funded with knowledge, because he takes all forms. But what people don't understand when they're in between the sleep and fully awoken stage, they are speaking of forms and formlessness. And what needs to be understood eventually, they'll get to the understanding that there is spiritual forms. Not when you speak of forms, you think of materials, but as above, so below. So if there's material forms, there's also spiritual forms. It's as simple as that. And then you can also break simple questions down to yourself, like, okay, if I was God, was all powerful and could do an infinite amount of things, why would I limit myself as to being just a big blob of energy that just kind of sits there and creates a world for his macro self to do whatever? God expands himself in infinite varieties to experience transcendental bliss through all those varieties being entities, beings, and experiences. And so the fruits, the transcendental fruits, just like there are material fruits or rewards, there's also an infinite amount of spiritual fruits. So what we're experiencing here is only a very perverted and minute fraction of God's energy. You could imagine the potency if you were to qualify for his kingdom, because it doesn't automatically happen. You have to purify, you have to develop consciousness to get there. You have to surrender to God. God's just not going to let rascals into his kingdom without them surrendering. He's not throwing a gangster party. We have to be real. We can't be thinking, oh, some savior's going to come and do my work for me. That we have to be real with ourselves at some point and and really surrender to God and listen to what He had to say. Apply His wisdom to our lives and not manufacture our own belief systems. And they're not religions. If you're not becoming more conscious and elevated, and you're not becoming more loving and strong, then your religion's not a religion. It's something you made up to stick up for the way you're living. It's as simple as that. That's what most people are doing. Is you ask them certain questions that are essential, they can't answer them. Might pull out little biblical quotes here and there, but they can't have like a heartfelt conversation with you about something as deep and essential as the intricacies of God's cosmic functions and energies in nature. We have to understand that you don't automatically go to heaven, like that doesn't happen. So it requires you to step up to what needs done while you're in a human body, because you're not guaranteed to have one. When you realize that, the idea is to break free from this entanglement. Material life implies the threefold miseries as birth, old age, and death. Or old age, sickness, disease, death. These are all inevitable no matter how healthy one lives. We're all destined to get old, to have a disease that kills us. How it goes. So when we realize these things, and break things down into simplicity, we can stop focusing on all the crazy details that your dark government has got you sidetracked on, and we can really develop some clarity as to what's going on and what's really actually important, which will help you to know what to do while you're in your human body. So the idea is, once you understand a little more about God, which requires for you to, for one, chant, elevate your frequency, feel good, chant a lot, really experiment with this stuff till you know that you feel way different than you did before you started. That's when you know you're starting to enter a different platform. But it's not going to happen in an instant. You have to put in some effort, And once you get your wheels turning, and it's like nothing, but it all breaks down to that surrendering and developing a servitude attitude. You have to want to serve God, and through that service attitude, your heart grows, and when your heart grows, your consciousness grows along with it. You can't just understand God through mental speculation and studying stuff all like that. It's very limited that way. And that's why I was saying we're not even taught how to learn, because learning happens through your heart. And energy is information, so as long as you're just receptive to the energy that's behind the information, then you'll understand it later when your heart grows. So God says one can only understand Him through a loving attitude, loving service attitude, devotional service. So your people are leaving themselves in ignorance by not surrendering to this yogic system. All the other physical movements are inside of this main system of uniting your mind with God, improving the quality of your thinking. Chanting God's names makes you think about God more naturally, and God's pastimes, reading about God, talking about God as different pastimes and whatnot, helps you to do the same thing. It has the same effect, raises your frequencies, helps you to get a stronger attraction to God, and it's more interesting. God's pastimes, His names and qualities, His paraphernalia, they're all the same, because in the absolute platform everything is the same. 1 + 1 = 1. It just, we're under a different cloak of Maya we're under his internal potency when we make it to heaven. So he creates an illusion for us all to enjoy there with a much more conscious and potent bubble of energy and love. So once we get into that kind of stuff and we learn about activities that occur in heaven, things that God did, things that God can do, characteristics of God, his functions, his nature, when we inquire these things, when we actually learn about this stuff, we get really fascinated. We want to talk about it. We want to share about it. We want people to want to talk about it to you and whatnot. And it's very uplifting. It helps you naturally, as a byproduct, have very high frequencies and a higher level of consciousness. Potentially, it will completely purify your soul into where that's all you can do. And it's happened to many sages where all they can see and talk about is God. That's just how it happens. When you break the meaning of the word Krsna down, or the name Krishna, it means the all-attractive. Everything emanates back to the original source. Krishna is the personified origin. So, the Maya, his external energy, is so strong, it's like black magic enchantment. Keep in mind, this is a demigoddess who is holding down a department of devotional service. So that's to give you a better, more healed perspective on it. It's not like, oh, it's all dark or whatnot. I'm just saying, it seems like it would be like what you would experience from someone engaged in black magic, putting you under an enchantment, making you think you're enjoying something that you're really not. We're not enjoying this. We're going to get old, we're going to get a disease, we're going to die from that disease. So we have to find a way to elevate ourselves to a spiritual platform while we're in these bodies, so that when these things inevitably happen to us, they don't affect us as bad, and we're not as attached to worldly things, because we know where we're going to go after this life. So it's no use of focusing so hard and getting so hell-bent on making such a big material difference here in this world right now, when we're only here for a flashbang glimpse. We've already been here so many millions of times. It's when are we going to stop and say, what are we actually coming here to learn? What are we actually coming to this realm to do? Oh, you only live once. My ass. You only live once in this specific form, but you can be in a hell of a lot better form if you step your game up and actually apply some of God's wisdom to your life. It's as simple as that, you know. And God's illusory energy, like I said, is so strong. It makes pigs feel like they're happy eating shit and playing in it. You understand? This is not fun. Think about God's kingdom, God's potency, you know, his opulence, like what all could be going on there. And potency like that, ignorance has no jurisdiction. The modes of nature have no jurisdiction. The illusory energy, like I said, Maya Devi, she's only holding down a devotional service post. So her purpose with this post is to get people to potentially surrender. So eventually you realize, hey, I'm not really actually enjoying this, you know. You have so much material enjoyment, eventually you lose your taste for it. You know, you start getting numb to stuff. Things aren't as enjoyable anymore. They have limits. It's not like that in the spiritual kingdom. Transcendental bliss is limitless, and that's what opening up to who you actually are is all about, is opening yourself up to a limitless position to where you're able to learn all consistently and sorry. So we're limitless beings, and when we make it and to our spiritual bodies, by focusing on God, when we improve the qualities of our thoughts and to where our souls purify, by the time we leave our bodies, if our dominant thoughts are on God, like if a majority of our thoughts are on God, then, and if we're thinking of God when we're leaving our body, meaning we're trying to go somewhere, we're trying to make it to God's kingdom when we leave our body. We're not trying to stay here. That's why it's important not to be of this world, as they say in biblical terms. But detaching yourself does not mean you don't care for it, don't have respect, and don't love it. But it actually opens you up to where you're able to do even more of that. You actually are able to enjoy even more, because you're actually experiencing transcendental bliss on a higher platform through this realm. You're experiencing the essence of it, so you're able to appreciate it more. You get more satisfaction from the nature and abundance from it, so the idea is to raise your frequency so high and to surrender to God through loving service, in order to break free from the shackles of the illusion in Maya. Because the more you do that, the stronger you're going to get, and the more easy it is for you to see what's actually going on. Your third eye open, you'll be seeing energy and stuff. It's hard to unsee certain things. You know what I'm saying? So just get your wheels turning, get in the groove. Don't think you're behind. Just jump in the pool, and you never know what you can awaken within yourself. You never know who you were before this life and how many different beings you were before this. We are amazing. So all we got to do is reawaken what's already inside of us. And we do that with simplified methods of making noises, saying names, and feeling what these vibrations are doing inside of our body. Whenever you're saying God's names, they're so healing. Even the Om, when you're saying Om, that's also God in the sound form. So it's no different. This literature is God in literary form. So when you read it, you're getting the same effect. Or it's important to hear it from someone who's opened their channel up, so you're able to, and has the capacity to understand the messages. So once you get your wheels turning, it's easier for you to understand what's going on with the book. But when you are first getting started, I highly recommend you find someone that's teaching classes, like me or anyone else that does that. But I do it Sunday every Sunday for free, only for an hour and a half. It's very beautiful. It feels like 10 minutes every time. By the time you're done, you get all kinds of energy, or you just feel like bathed in unconditional love. And it's very effective with raising the consciousness to meditate in a group, in a sense. If you're reading, learning about God, and whatnot with a group, it amplifies the frequencies through the roof. So, yeah, so the idea is to realize you're not enjoying what you think is enjoyment is false enjoyment. And when you realize that you are able to feel good, and there's no limits to how good you can feel, and you are able to enjoy, and there's no limits to how much joy you can feel, then we can take up on the yogic system and open ourselves up to that limitless position. But if we're always stuck thinking the same way, which leads to the same actions, we're always going to have the same results. The idea is to try something different. Take some of these formulas that are brought down by God specifically, and experiment with how it makes you feel and whatnot within your own state of mind and being. And the energy never lies. So find out that you're not enjoying, this is false enjoyment, it's temporary enjoyment. Realize that you do and are worthy of actual bliss and enjoyment, and then make an effort to experience that. And the higher your vibration gets, as a byproduct, the better you're going to feel. So naturally, you're going to want to vibrate higher and hold on to those vibrations at a consistency. So naturally, once you start getting your wheels turning, you're not going to want to stop because of how good it feels and whatnot. It's one thing to play fucking guessing games. It's another to actually be able to fully know without room for doubt, because you can feel what it's doing to yourself with first and second hand experiences with this stuff. So the idea is just to get involved and to start having experiences, gain wisdom, elevate your frequency, open up your heart, put yourself into a receptive mode at first. First things most important is putting yourself in that receptive mode, opening up your heart to the energy, not just listening to stuff and being stuck in here and arguing with things as it's coming in. Open up your heart. Actually make a honest attempt to benefit yourself. You know? Do you actually want to understand what's going on, or do you just want to be actively ignorant? You know? So hopefully you're not going to choose the second one. And singing the Hare Krishna mantra or saying it silently, doing multiple rounds, getting a pair of Mala Japa beads. There's 108 beads accordingly to your energy centers. As I was saying, when you're saying God's name and making different sound vibrations, what it's doing to you on a cellular level is harmonizing every cell in your body. So when your repetition saying God's names per chakra, that's like sending that frequency and harmonizing each department of your body and whatnot. So there's 108 beads on the necklace. You say God's name the whole way around till you get to the tassel, and you're supposed to do 16 rounds a day in order to keep your mind in check. You're not going to be able to do that at first, and so you just start off with 2 to 4 if you can. Get to 8 and do what you can when you can. You know what I mean? But try to get 16. And if you really want to go hard, go on vacation and really experiment with some vibrations. You know, make yourself a crystal grid. Get inside of that thing. Start chanting, meditate. Put your mind on a higher platform. When you put your mind in a higher place, when you increase the quality of your thinking, then you're now entering the transcendental platform. You're actually simultaneously living in the spiritual realm and while you're in a human body. Okay? So that is my video for today. Thank you to anyone who sat in and listened to it with open mind and heart, and hope that the information helps. And Hare Krishna.